What's good to my members, man? It's Professor Lauren giving y'all that Professor Lauren University special. Yeah, man. So hope y'all stay tuned with me. So this is Professor Lauren's history class. And yes, if you're watching this class is mandatory. So make sure you have your pens and papers out, man. We're gonna get straight to business, man. So today, man, we're going over the foundations of history, right? So the concepts that are the building blocks of history and the role each building block plays history. And pretty much this will be how I try to structure my videos, not maybe structure my videos, but like the things I want to touch on. And when I do the videos, I'm not gonna blatantly be like, hey, this is cause and effect, or this is, historical bias, this is historical bias perspective, or this is, the context, whatever. I might say the context. Sometimes I'm gonna try to be as what's the word I'm looking for? Try to be as discreet as possible when I go over the concepts, right? I want y'all to be able to catch on and take notes and, pretty much determine what it is for yourself, Because like I said, that's what learning is about. Learning is about finding out things on your own, right? Doing your own research, coming up with things that you might see that I might not see. That's what we're here for. So yeah, man. So I'm trying to make sure, man, we gonna make this shit quick, easy, and light, man. Professor Lawrence style, man. So first come, first serve, we got cause and effect. So causes is things that lead up to an event, right? And how those reasons get built up over time, which will lead to an effect, right? So an effect is the result or consequence of the previous action or the cause, right? So next we got primary sources and secondary sources, right? And then that will lead into first-hand account and then second-hand account. So primary source, we got an original source that pretty much provides or gives direct evidence of around that time or the event. Fuck. Excuse me. So the examples of primary sources, you got letters, you got diaries, you got photographs, you got pictures, you got artifacts, interviews, you got audio recordings, you got video recordings, you got autobiography. So autobiography is like, let's say like I make a book about myself and I write it from my perspective. I write it pretty much, I'm writing my story, you feel me? So that's what an autobiography is, when a person is writing their own story, right? And then you got memoirs, which is an historical account or biography written from personal knowledge. So now we got secondary sources, right? So secondary sources are accounts of events or discoveries that are usually analyzed, summarized, or interpreted by somebody else, right? Who did not see the event firsthand. They weren't there to see the event. They pretty much are hearing about the event, right? Secondary sources gets their information from primary sources, right? Usually. So we got examples of secondary sources. We got textbooks, books, you got biographies. So biographies are what somebody else writes somebody else's story. So pretty much it's not really personal. They get most of the information from outside sources, usually, or maybe they might get, a source from the person that they're writing about. But yeah, that's a biography. And then we got documentaries, right? So now we get in the first-hand account. First-hand account is a type of primary source where a person that sees something happening and they were there when the event took place. So pretty much first-hand account is somebody that writes down, either they write it down or they are interviewed or they write an article and they were there. They were there to see what took place, what happened, things like that. So they pretty much had eyes on the situation. Second-hand account is a type of secondary source, a story or report about an event by someone who wasn't initially there. So usually they get their information from outside sources, right? Or they get information from people that were there. Because what I'm saying? So they heard about it through others. So now we got change and continuity. So change are things in society that change, adapt, especially civilizations, and as technology ends up becoming more advanced, right? So a lot of that's what an example of change is: technology, progressing, improving, that's an example of change. And then we got continuity, right? When things stay traditional, things that stay the same over time, right? So that's change in continuity. So now we get into historical context and historical bias, right? So historical context is understanding that events and laws were allowed due to the time period at that time. So you have social structures, you got cultures, political movements, and economic environments and conditions. So a lot of things that happened in the past were allowed due to the time period, right? Like, I hate to say this, but like once upon a time, it was okay for people, men, to marry younger women, right? Not cool, and it's still allowed around the world today. That shit is fucking weird. But yeah, so that's context, right? And then you have historical bias. So when you look at history from a certain point of view, historical bias is looking from history from a certain point of view, but not looking at it from different lenses and viewpoints, you know, not looking at it from another person's point of perspective or another person's point of view or their viewpoint, right? Being selfish and only keeping it, keeping it in line with how you see things. So now we got chronology, right? So chronology is when we put together events that happen and we make sure that it's in order from beginning to end, right? We want to make sure that when we're telling a story, we're telling it from the beginning to the end. You know what I'm saying? We don't want to mix match things up and mix match events up. We want to make sure that we're telling it from the beginning to the end to make it simple and easy to understand for everybody around, right? So now we got interpretations and perspective, right? So interpretation is us humans being the ones that determine or be pretty much giving you how I see things happening in history, right? And we usually have biases, opinions that affect how history can be told, right? So many people have different viewpoints. So the story can be told and understood differently from everybody. Even if I'm trying to push a narrative out on, something that I feel happened throughout history, not everybody that I'm telling it to, or not everybody that comes across me, telling a viewpoint, they might not see it how I'm trying to portray it. You catch what I'm saying? So different cultures of people remember how things went differently. And there's also evidence that is still out there that many people don't think about when we talk about interpretation. So when you might come across new evidence or evidence that you might not have, you might have just been coming across, whatever the case may be, you might change your viewpoint and your interpretation on how you see things playing out or how things played out, right? So now we got who, what, when, where, why, and how in history, right? And I think these should be the last few points of the foundations of history. So we got who in history, we got the leaders, rulers, secret organizations, the people of the social structure, soldiers, workers, the civilians, the citizens, and the population of that time period. Ooh, I don't know why I keep fucking burping. Fuck, nigga. Damn. Shit about to make me crash. Right? So that's who. Now we got what? What was going on at that time? What was happening? What laws were put in place around this time? What were the people of the different, areas doing? Things like that. And then we got when. So when is the time frame or period, the time frame of the time period of said event, war, conflict, right? And then you got the timeline throughout this specific period from beginning to end. And then we got where. So you got the location, places of events, battle, conflicts, the location of the place of event or the location of the battle or the conflict, right? Whether it's the region, the country, the state, the province, and then we got why, right? So why being what was the reason behind this event, this battle, this conflict, what led to the conflict or led to the circumstances of whatever's going on, right? So now we got how. So how is what we gonna be doing about damn near most of these videos is the process or the complete breakdown of this event, right? So how did this thing happen? Well, why did it happen? What was the reason? Right? Who was involved? Like pretty much how is damn near the complete. It's all of it. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna be covering damn near all of it. Right. So this is gonna be the blueprint and how we break down our videos, right? When we speak on history, historical topics, right? And of course I'm not gonna get probably like I said touch on each one of these points in every video. It's gonna be a long video. Like I said, I'm probably gonna certain videos might be different part. Like I might have multiple parts and stuff like that to kind of make it easy, break it down, make it digestible, make it more understandable, right? Like I said, I want y'all to understand what I'm saying like I said, hopefully as the content become better and get better, I want to put visuals in the video, like I said, for my people that are visual learners like me, right? I'm a motherfucker like it's easy for me to understand when I see things, right? And maybe it's sometimes here too, but yeah. So yeah, man, we at the end of the video, man. Hopefully y'all rocking with the video, man. Truly yours, Professor Lauren. We gone.